For anyone out there who loves the massive lists of Disney characters, we have over 50 characters on today's list. And they better all play nice around each other. Hello everybody, Nicky Marra here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you all have had a fabulous week and are ready for yet another fun ranking video. Now here on the channel before we have discussed Disney babies, Disney parents, Disney seniors, and we've even gotten into some groupings of characters with Disney trios and Disney duos. But here on today's list, these groups of characters have no specific limit or number. But we're returning to the theme of family. Disney siblings. There are so many different varieties, and they're all making an appearance all together on today's list. Some of Disney's sweetest tales and also some of Disney's most intense tales truly incorporate the themes of siblings. And these stories that feature the groups of siblings often have quite a bit to do with the dynamic of each of the characters within the family. There's a whole lot of good, a whole lot of bad, but regardless, there will be some family drama. So yes, friends, for today's ranking video, I have compiled a list of 20 sets of Disney siblings, and we are going to rank them from my least to most favorite. But if you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Nicky Marra, and I'm a Disney content creator. I got my start over on TikTok, but have joined the YouTube community and have been loving making long-form videos for you guys, of which I have brand new videos coming out every single Friday at 5 p.m. So if you haven't already, make sure to hit subscribe down below so that way you never miss out on any future magic from me. And likewise, if you would like to find me on any of my other social media platforms, my handle is @NickyMarra with 2 Y's and 2 R's. And you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat for even more magic. Now, as always here on the channel, I am going to jump into some brief disclaimers, conditions, and then talking points that we're going to be sure to touch on for each sibling group ranked on today's list. I have each of those topics of discussion timestamped down in the description box down below, but if you would just like to jump right into our ranking video today, then you can head right to this timestamp. First and foremost, for our disclaimers, I am not associated with the Walt Disney Company, and therefore I do not speak for the brand or the company, and any and all opinions in this video are just my own and do not reflect those of the brand or the company. But secondly, I welcome any and all opinions surrounding all of these incredible groups of Disney siblings. I guarantee that my personal list is going to look a lot different than a list that you would put together. So I'm very curious, make sure to leave all of your thoughts on my list down below. And if you happen to think of a Disney sibling group that didn't quite make it onto today's list, make sure to give them some love down in the comments. But thirdly, for the disclaimers, I do want to give a massive spoiler warning for all of the Disney movies and Disney characters that we are going to be talking about in today's video. As for part of the talking points that we're going to be sure to talk about for each character, we are going to be discussing the sibling group's dynamic as well as how each of the siblings affect the plot of their story. And so yes, we are going to be going into some very detailed descriptions of movie plots that these Disney characters come from. So if I happen to talk about a specific Disney movie or a Disney character that you don't want anything spoiled for, then I more than welcome you to just jump on up to the next number on today's list. But next, friends, we're moving into our conditions for today's list. Today I have compiled a list of 20 groups of Disney siblings. A group of Disney siblings has to have a minimum of 2 characters, but from there up, we can have as many siblings as can fit within a family. There is no limit, just a minimum on today's list. To define siblings, they can be either blood-related or adoptive siblings. And likewise, we are going to be limiting today's list to just the Disney animated movies and also the Pixar animated movies. But friends, that pretty much takes care of our disclaimers and conditions for today's video. So very quickly, before we jump into today's ranking list, let's talk through the brief talking points we're going to be sure to touch on for each individual group of siblings on today's list. After first naming each group of siblings, we are going to be talking about the animated Disney or Pixar film from which the sibling group can be found, as well as its release year. We are then going to be talking about the siblings' dynamic amongst themselves, as well as how they get along or don't within their animated movie. Thirdly, we're going to be talking about any significance within the animated movie's plot that these siblings are incorporated into. And for the fourth and final talking point, we're going to be discussing the siblings' impact on the Walt Disney Company outside of their original animated movie. This will include any sort of merchandising, any sort of park presence, or any media and marketing that the Disney characters can be found in. And with all that out of the way, friends, I believe it is finally time to jump into today's ranking list. So if you are ready to get into all the family drama, then sit back, relax, grab yourself a snack and a drink, and let's rank Disney siblings. We are starting today's list all the way down at the bottom at number 20. Who are Kenai, Denahi, and Sitka. Now, Kenai, Denahi, and Sitka, of course, all come from the animated Disney film Brother Bear, which was released in the year 2003. As for the sibling dynamic, Sitka is the eldest and the wisest, Denahi is rather proud and skeptical, and Kenai is hot-headed and impulsive. Sitka sacrifices his own life very early on in the film to save his brother, and Denahi mistakenly believes that Kenai has passed away, seeking revenge until he eventually finds out the truth. As for the plot importance that these siblings have, their familial tragedy actually drives the plot of the film. Kenai's journey to empathy and transformation is deeply tied to his brother's influences. And as for these siblings' representation outside of their original animated movie for the Walt Disney Company, they are unfortunately not widely merchandised as of right now. However, the trio does remain emotionally resonant with audiences. They were definitely more visible during the film's release, through both promotions and Animal Kingdom tie-ins. Now, as for my personal thoughts, I think Kenai, Denahi, and Sitka all have a really great relationship before the events of the movie begin. Because of mistaken identity, Denahi actually ends up going after Kenai for pretty much the entire runtime of the film. Likewise, Sitka unfortunately does not have a ton of screen time, seeing as he does unfortunately pass away very early on in the film. And so even though these three brothers do have a wonderful reunion at the end of their movie, for the grand majority of the movie, their relationships are very rocky, if present at all. Don't get me wrong, I think this is an absolutely wonderful trio of Disney family members, but their relationships are definitely put on the rocks in this animated film and definitely don't have enough time to unwind, relax, and enjoy each other's presence. There's a whole lot of drama in this family, as we can see through the plot of the animated film. But regardless, they did have to make it onto today's list because of the absolutely beautiful reunion they have at the end of their film. And even though the three brothers will technically be broken up, seeing as one has passed on, one is an animal and one is a human, there's something very beautiful about the spiritual connection between all three. And so there was no way that I was going to be able to keep all three of these brothers off of my list, but because of the rockiness, they will definitely go down towards the bottom. But next, friends, we're going to move on up to number 19 on my list, who are Dolores, Antonio, and Camilo. Now, Dolores, Antonio, and Camilo, of course, all come from the animated Disney film Encanto, which was released in the year 2021. And as for their sibling dynamic, all three are children to Peppa and Felix. Dolores is quiet and hears everything, Camilo is playful and a shapeshifter, and Antonio communicates with animals. They get along quite well with playful banter and also very wonderful family dynamic. As for any plot importance that these siblings have in their animated film, each sibling plays a small but memorable role in Mirabel's story, showing how the family's pressures do really affect everyone differently. And as for the representation within the Walt Disney Company, all of them are very popular amongst younger audiences, and all appear in merchandise, park media, and music videos tied to Encanto. I really do like these three siblings. I don't think there's anything bad between the three of them here. We just honestly don't see a ton of interaction between these three characters on their own. We of course get to see each one of them individually, but as one family unit, the three of them kind of go their own separate ways in this animated film. But regardless, I really like them, and I think they all have really cool gifts from the Miracle. But next, friends, we're gonna move on up to number 18 on my list, who are Princess Ada and Princess Dot. Now, Ada and Dot, of course, come from the 1998 Pixar animated film, A Bug's Life. And as for their sibling dynamic, Ada is the responsible heir to the throne, while Dot is her energetic younger sister. Throughout the film, their relationship is very supportive of one another, with Dot both admiring Ada and also standing up for her. And as for any plot importance that these two sisters have in their film, Dot is essential in helping Flick and also boosting morale, while Ada's leadership development is vital to the ant colony's success. And as for these sisters' representation within the Walt Disney Company, well, they're not necessarily heavily merchandised as of today. Ada and Dot actually used to be featured in Bugs Land, which used to be in Disney's California Adventure Park. And nowadays they also do tend to feature in some Pixar media. I think Princess Ada and Princess Dot have a very great relationship with one another. I really do like how supportive they are of each other throughout their animated film. And for being so different from each other, with Ada really taking on this regal appearance and Dot having this joyful, optimistic, bubbly appearance, the two of them really do fit together, which I think really attests to how close they are within their family. I have to say, I also really like the relationship between Dot and Flick. Flick, of course, being the romantic interest to Princess Ada. As we talked about in last week's video, my ranking of Disney animal couples, I like that all three of them sort of have a fun dynamic, but the sisters remain ever strong throughout the entirety of their film. Yes, these two are super cute, and I absolutely had to rank them in my top 20. But next, friends, we're gonna move on up to number 17 on my list, who are Andy and Molly. Now, Andy and Molly, of course, come from the Toy Story franchise, appearing in 3 different Toy Story films. The first of which being the original Toy Story, which released in 1995, 1999's Toy Story 2, and finally Toy Story 3, which debuted in the year 2010. And as for Andy and Molly's dynamic, Andy is the main child of the film, who of course we follow, seeing as all of his toys are the main characters, and Molly is his younger sister. Within their films, they don't interact with each other a lot, but Molly's growing up actually marks the passing time for all of the toys. As for their plot importance within their Pixar film, Andy's aging and departure from childhood is a major plot point in Toy Story 3, and Molly, being his younger sister, actually represents a transition into the next generation of children. And as for the sibling pair's representation within the Walt Disney Company, Andy is instantly iconic due to his emotional attachment to our leading characters, Buzz and Woody, and Molly is significantly less visible, seeing as she is a very minor character within the Toy Story franchise. Overall, again, a sibling pair that I really like. I think there is ties to iconic animated characters, so they do rank a little bit higher than everyone else that we've talked about so far, but I really do like that these two siblings get along throughout multiple Pixar animated films. It just shows how strong these two are as a family unit. But next, friends, we're gonna move on up to number 16 on my list, who are Tipo, Chaka, and Yuppie. Now, Tipo, Chaka, and Yuppie, of course, come from the Disney animated film The Emperor's New Groove, which was released in the year 2000. And as for the sibling dynamic that Tipo, Chaka, and Yuppie have within their animated film, these are the 3 children of Pacha and Chicha. Tipo is the most prominent and mischievous, Chaka is rather bossy, and Yuppie is the little baby. Throughout their film, they are a tight, loving unit that just brings a whole bunch of cuteness to screen, as well as a ton of playful chaos. As for their plot importance within the original animated film, they both provide comedic relief and also play into Pacha's role as a devout father, and Tipo tends to play a larger role in interactions with Emperor Kuzco. And as for these siblings' representation within the Walt Disney Company, they're mostly featured in tie-in books and very rare Disney merchandise. And they also sometimes rarely appear in the background of Disney animated montages within their theme parks. I think these 3 siblings immediately add a whole bunch of charm to their animated film, and I love all the playful chaos that just comes about whenever these 3 are on screen. They have a great relationship not only with each other, but also with all of the other characters within their animated film. And even though The Emperor's New Groove is a bucket of laughs, I think these 3 siblings are just the cherry on top of an already wonderful Disney animated comedy. I mean, there's no denying that Pacha and Chicha are probably very exhausted from trying to keep up with all the shenanigans of these 3 little siblings. But next, friends, we're gonna move on up to number 15 on my list, who are Sisu, Amba, Prani, Jagin, and Pengu. Now, these 5 really cool dragon siblings, of course, all can be found in the animated Disney film Raya and the Last Dragon, which was released in the year 2021. And as for the sibling dynamic found within the original animated film, Sisu is the youngest dragon sibling and is seen as both quirky and humble. Her older siblings are powerful and noble, having sacrificed their powers to save humanity. And her older siblings, of course, tend to appear within flashbacks and spiritual segments within the film. As for any plot importance that these 5 dragons have in their film, the sacrifices of Sisu's siblings, try to say that 5 times fast, allow her to survive and save humanity. and their example actually teaches the lessons of trust and unity. And as for the representation within the Walt Disney Company, of course, Sisu is the most present, being the main dragon that we follow, along with Raya in the film. And while her siblings are less individually known, they can appear in some books, some tie-in merchandise, and some concept art around the Disney parks. What I love about this Disney sibling group is that they immediately have this like regalness about them, seeing as, again, they are 5 dragons. I will say it is very rare that an entire group of siblings actually reflects a mythical creature, of which I do also have an entire video ranking the mythical creatures and their representation within the Disney Company. But yes, it is rare to see so many mythical creatures within one animated film and all of them being named, which is why I really love this sibling group. Likewise, I also like the tie-in with each individual dragon having their own special power, and also how selfless all of Sisu's older siblings are in trying to save humanity by giving up their gift to Sisu. I think the relationship that these dragons have is truly something special, and I think this sibling group might go very under-recognized as of right now within Disney's animated canon, specifically because it still seems like Raya and the Last Dragon never got the love it truly deserved. Regardless, I'm gonna rank Sisu and all of her siblings at number 15 on today's list, and I am quite confident in ranking our mythical friends right here at number 15. Next, friends, we're moving on up to number 14 on my list, and I'm gonna have to take a deep breath for this one. At number 14 are Aquata, Andrina, Arista, Atina, Adela, Alana, and Ariel. Now, Aquata, Andrina, Arista, Atina, Adela, Alana, and Ariel all of course come from the classic Disney animated film The Little Mermaid, which was released in the year 1989. And as for these mermaids' sibling dynamic within their animated film, Ariel is the youngest and the most rebellious, while her older sisters follow royal protocol more closely. While they're initially exasperated with Ariel, they are still loving and ultimately very supportive, especially showing up at her wedding at the end of the animated film. As for any plot importance that these sisters may have, Ariel's older sisters are mostly background characters within the original animated film, aside from one scene, but the prequel, Ariel's Beginning, actually explores their whole dynamic a whole lot more. And overall, Ariel's independence vastly contrasts with her sister's duty-bound responsibilities. And as for any representation that these Mer-sisters get in the Walt Disney Company, Ariel is a top-tier Disney princess, especially considering you can meet her every single day at the Disney parks. However, Ariel's sisters are featured less prominently, although sometimes appearing in books, toys, and even some shows within Disney parks, but it is a rare occurrence. I think you all can tell that I put my personal bias aside, especially considering if you've seen my ranking of Disney princesses, you know how high Ariel ranks on there, so my personal biases aside. But the main reason why these Mer-sisters don't rank super high for me is that we don't really get a whole lot of Ariel's sisters within their original animated film. I think Ariel's Beginning does a very nice job of fleshing out each of the sisters individually and giving them an individual personality. But if we're just going by the original animated film, the 6 older sisters just tend to have their song, and then the one scene where they sort of comment on Ariel, who's just sort of in a dreamy love state, and that's kind of all we get to see from them. I do wish we got a little bit more time with her 6 older sisters, but I gotta say, I can't complain too much because my favorite Disney princess gets a lot of screen time within her animated film. So yes, the 7 Daughters of Triton are going to rank very firmly at number 14 on my list of Disney siblings. But next, friends, we're gonna move on up to number 13 on my list, who are Peppa, Julieta, and Bruno. Now, Peppa, Julieta, and Bruno, of course, all come from the animated Disney film Encanto, which was released in the year 2021. And as for their sibling dynamic, each of the 3 have a very special gift from the miracle. Peppa controls the weather, Julieta has magic healing food, and Bruno can see the future. And all 3 are the children of Alma. Within the film, Peppa and Julieta remain very close within the family, while Bruno becomes rather estranged. Despite any conflicts that may appear within the Familia Madrigal, these 3 remain very tight-knit and close, especially at the end of their film. And as for any plot importance that these 3 siblings have in their film, Bruno's disappearance and his eventual return are a central plot point to the animated film. Likewise, their reconnection also reflects the healing of the Familia Madrigal, showing how generational trauma can be healed with love. And as for any representation that these three siblings have outside of their animated film, Bruno is especially iconic from his wonderful song, We Don't Talk About Bruno, especially because he appears every single day in the Adventure Friends Cavalcade, and now also in Disney's Starlight Parade, which I also have a whole video discussing. But regardless, all three sibling members do appear in merchandise, in different sing-alongs, and a lot of theme park entertainment, specifically themed around Encanto. I really love these three siblings. I think they are so sweet and so cute, and especially at the end of the film when they all get to reconnect with one another. Oh, it is so, so touching and shows how even their family bonds cannot break under generational trauma. Ooh, but next, friends, we're gonna move on up to number 12 on my list. This is a fun one. At number 12 are Violet, Jack, and Dash. Now, Violet, Dash, and Jack, of course, all come from The Incredibles, which have two movies. The original Incredibles, of course, coming out in the year 2004, and its sequel, Incredibles 2, came out in the year 2018. And as for these three's sibling dynamic within their animated films, well, they have very typical sibling dynamics for superheroes, you could say. Dash tends to tease Violet, who is the moody teen of the family, and Jack the baby has some really unpredictable powers. These siblings do argue quite a bit, however they are fiercely loyal to each other and will stop at nothing to protect each other when in battle. And as for any plot importance that these three siblings have, their teamwork within both of their animated films truly show the themes of unity and family, and how especially as kids the three of them are able to evolve into true superheroes, who can all act very independently of each other while also being there for each other. And as for any representation that these three kiddos have outside of their animated film, they are heavily merchandised and very prominent within Pixar theming, such as in the Incredicoaster in Disneyland's Pixar Pier. These three siblings are truly some of the most unpredictable, however, they are also very fiercely loyal, protecting each other's lives at some points in their animated film, and so they definitely had to rank a whole lot higher than all of the other siblings that we've talked about thus far on today's list. But next, friends, we're going to move on up to number 11 on my list, who are Mirabel, Luisa, and Isabella. Now, Mirabel, Isabella, and Luisa, of course, all come from the animated Disney film Encanto, which released in the year 2021. As for their sibling dynamic, Mirabel Madrigal is the only Madrigal family member without a miracle gift. Luisa is the super strong and dependable sister under pressure, and Isabella is elegant and initially seen as perfect. In this film, there is tension between the three sisters, seeing as Isabella and Mirabel do conflict over familial expectations, and Mirabel sometimes feels inferior to Luisa. However, by the end, they are able to reconcile and their family bond is as strong as ever. And as for the plot importance of these three siblings in their film, their relationships reflect the overall greater themes of family roles and emotional burdens. And the breakthroughs that these three sisters are able to have with one another actually end up healing both the house and their family bonds. And as for the representation within the Walt Disney Company, these three siblings appear quite often. Mirabel Madrigal, of course, has her own meet and greet over in the Magic Kingdom. She can also sometimes be seen in the Adventure Friends Cavalcade, filling in for her Tio Bruno. And then in the brand new Starlight Parade, Mirabel and Isabella can be seen on the Encanto float. Likewise, in the coming years, there's going to be a whole brand new Encanto-themed attraction and land coming to the Animal Kingdom, and so we are only going to see even more Encanto representation and Mirabel, Luisa, and Isabella representation by extension. These three sisters are so incredible. I love their dynamic and just barely missed ranking into the top half of today's list. But with that, friends, we have reached the top 10 of my list of Disney siblings. If you have any guesses as to which siblings are going to rank in the top half of my list, make sure to leave your guesses down below. I always love seeing if anyone is able to guess before the actual ranking is revealed, so leave your guesses down below. But next, friends, we're moving on up to number 10 on my list, who are Remy and Emile. Now, Remy and Emile, of course, come from the 2007 Pixar animated film, Ratatouille. And as for their sibling dynamic within their film, Emile is easygoing and fun-loving, while Remy is ambitious and artistic. Despite their differences, Emile does support Remy in all of his endeavors, which eventually help him to bridge the gap between him and his father. And as for any plot importance that these two rat brothers have in their animated film, Emile plays a crucial supporting role in Remy's journey to becoming a chef, seeing as he helps him retain his connection to his rat colony as well as to his father. And as for these rat brothers' representation outside of their original Pixar film for the Disney company, Remy is very prominent in Disney merchandise. Likewise, he can also be seen in Remy's Ratatouille adventure over in Epcot Park, the Ratatouille-themed attraction starring Remy. And Emile actually appears in both of these instances as well, just on a smaller scale than his starring brother. I really love these two characters. I think they have a great dynamic between each other, and for all of the differences that they have, they really do come together and support each other. Especially Emile coming to Remy to support him when he does feel like an outcast in his own colony. Yes, I love these brothers, and there was no way that they were going to rank outside of the top 10, especially with all of their iconic Disney representation in the theme parks. But next, friends, we're going to move on up to number 9 on my list, sort of a relatively new sibling duo. At number 9 are Moana and Simea. Now, Moana and Simea, of course, both come from the animated Disney film Moana 2, although Moana originated, of course, in the original animated film Moana, which released in the year 2016. Her sister Simea was indeed a product of a Disney sequel, however, it was a theatrically released sequel, so we're gonna count it. Now, as for their sibling dynamic, as we just said, Moana was initially shown as an only child in her original animated film, but Simea in her sequel serves as the worried little sister of Moana. When Moana has to go out on her big brand new adventure in the sequel, Simea sits back and worries about whether or not Moana will one day return to her. As for their plot importance, Moana is the main character that we follow in both of her animated films, and Simea does tend to take a background role. She has some very sweet moments with her older sister in her sequel film, but again, in terms of the overall story arc, Simea really serves as an emotional homecoming for Moana at the end of her sequel film. And as for any representation for this sister duo in the Walt Disney Company, Moana herself is very highly visible in princess branding. She has a ton of merchandise available, does meet and greets every single day at Walt Disney World. And Simea, although significantly less represented, does tend to be seen on some brand new Moana 2 merchandise. I honestly think this sister duo is super, super cute. I love Simea and how sentimental she is over her sister Moana, and I love the emotional homecoming at the end of the sequel film that brings these two sisters back together. Again, for the majority of the film, we don't really get to see Simea, seeing as there is a whole ocean separating the two, but the separation for the sisters is a big emotional part of the sequel film, which absolutely hammers home and grabs audiences' attention. I truly have nothing bad to say about these iconic sisters, and also have to say that I love that introducing Simea as a little sister to Moana also gave Moana quite a bit of depth, as she now has quite a bit more responsibility when she's home in Motunui. Yes, I love these two. Had to rank in my top 10, especially seeing as they're one of the newest Disney sibling groups. And so they're gonna rank right here. And I am very confident in my top 10 placement. But next, friends, we're gonna move on up to number 8 on my list, who are Marie, Toulouse, and Berlioz. Now, Marie, Toulouse, and Berlioz, of course, come from the animated Disney classic The Aristocats, which released in the year 1970. And while Marie, Toulouse, and Berlioz also ranked on my ranking of Disney trios, there was no way that these iconic kittens were not going to rank on the siblings video as well. But as for the siblings dynamic within their animated film, these kittens are a playful and loving trio. Toulouse is brave and artistic, Berlioz is shy and musical, and Marie is ladylike and sassy. Throughout their film, they constantly tease one another, but also will do everything in their power to protect and watch over one another. And as for their plot importance within their original animated film, Their sibling antics are key to the charm and humor of this film, and their unity as siblings actually eventually brings together Duchess and Thomas O'Malley for the big romantic plot of the film. And as for their representation within the Walt Disney Company, Marie is especially popular amongst the three, featured in a lot of merchandise and also the Adventure Friends Cavalcade in the Magic Kingdom. But likewise, the trio is becoming more prominent now in kid and baby merchandise, especially seeing as the three kittens are definitely on the younger side and appeal to a lot of youngins. I love these three kittens. I think they are so unbelievably adorable, so cute, and truly the emotional backbone to their entire animated film. When you think about it, for being such young characters, they really truly get a lot done in their animated film. And once again, just for being an iconic set of siblings, there was absolutely no way that Marie, Toulouse, and Berlioz were going to fall outside of the top 10 on my personal list of Disney siblings. Ooh, but next, friends, we're gonna move on up to number 7 on my list. I love these characters. At number 7 are Wendy, John, and Michael Darling. Now, Wendy, John, and Michael, of course, all can be found in the animated Disney classic Peter Pan, which released in the year 1953. And as for the sibling dynamic that these three children have, Wendy, throughout her film, acts as a motherly figure to her two younger brothers. John acts as a fearless leader, and Michael is their younger, rather naive brother. But through their film, they share a bond of imagination and wonder as they travel to Neverland with Peter Pan. And as for their plot importance, as I just said, they are the main characters of this film, and Peter and Tinkerbell have been there before, but we, as the audience, experience Neverland for the first time with these three siblings. Likewise, their emotional connection underscored the entire message of the film, which incorporate the themes of family and growing up. And as for their representation outside of their original animated film for the Walt Disney Company, they frequently appear on merchandise. They can all be seen in Peter Pan's Flight, the ride in the Magic Kingdom, and likewise Wendy tends to appear in certain character meet and greets and Disney parades and shows. This is another sibling group that I just couldn't keep out of the top 10 because we truly go on the journey with these siblings. Each one of them is completely different and has a unique personality, so no matter who's watching, you tend to gravitate towards one of the three. And I also love the tie-in to the themes of growing up in family, which of course appear in Peter Pan. These three children learn a lot within the span of their animated film and have some really interesting adventures. And I love getting to travel alongside them every time I revisit the animated Disney classic, Peter Pan. Oh, but next, friends, we're gonna return to some fun. Next, we're gonna move on up to number 6 on my list, who are Merida, Hubert, Harris, and Hamish. Now, Merida, Hubert, Harris, and Hamish, of course, all come from the animated Pixar film Brave, which was released in the year 2012. And as for their sibling dynamic, Harris, Hubert, and Hamish all are three triplets who are extremely mischievous and cause quite a bit of trouble within their animated film. While they have very little dialogue, they are very playful and very protective over one another, and tend to give all of the other characters in their animated film a run for their money, including their older sister, Merida. As for the plot relevance of the Princess and Princes of Dombrach, the triplets provide comedic relief and are affected by the magical chaos that Merida initiates in her film, especially seeing as they become three bear cubs. Likewise, the three also help to save their mother alongside Merida in the final battle. And as for their representation within the Walt Disney Company, Merida has joined the ranks of the official Disney Princess lineup, so she can now be seen every day in the Disney parks as a meet and greet character, and the triplet princes do tend to appear in a lot of Brave merchandise. But I will say that the three triplets also don't nearly have as much representation as their older sister. They used to be seen in the theming of Princess Merida's meet and greet area, but since Merida no longer has a concrete meeting area and only appears in the cavalcades and eventually fills in at Princess Fairy Tale Hall and Cinderella's Royal Table, we really don't get to see too much of the triplets. But here's hoping that one day that they return triumphantly to the Disney parks. Oh, but with that, friends, we have reached the top 5 of my list of Disney siblings. Do you have any guesses as to who's gonna reach the top 5? I'm curious. Make sure to leave your thoughts down below. If you've seen any of my ranking videos before, this one might come as a surprise to you. At number 5 on my list are Hiro and Tadashi. Now, Hiro and Tadashi, of course, come from the animated Disney film Big Hero 6, which was released in the year 2014. Now, immediately, many of you may know that This is not a super high-ranking movie for me, so we're gonna have to get into why these two brothers are here on this placement. As for their sibling dynamic, Tadashi is Hiro's older, caring, and very emotionally supportive brother. Tadashi is truly Hiro's role model, and his very early passing in the animated film causes a lot of emotional grieving for Hiro throughout the rest of his film. And likewise, his brother's passing also motivates his journey. As for the plot importance that these brothers have in their film, Tadashi's influence actually lives on through the character Baymax. And Hiro's grief and growth, both caused by Tadashi's passing, technically drive forward the rest of the plots of the animated film. As for these brothers' representation within the Disney canon, Big Hero 6 does have some themed attractions, and both brothers do tend to appear in a lot of Big Hero 6 merchandise. And through it all, fans of this film will definitely tell you that Tadashi's impact definitely remains resonant, despite his brief appearance at the beginning of the film. I think what ranks these two brothers so high on my personal list is the tragedy that surrounds their relationship. Again, we don't get to see the two brothers interact for too long within the film, but the interactions that they do have and their formed relationship at the beginning truly influence the entire rest of the plot. Likewise, we do get to see snippets of their returning relationship in the character of Baymax, who of course was created by Tadashi, and therefore Hiro feels this very strong emotional connection to him. The first time watching this film, Tadashi's passing was truly so heart-wrenching and definitely an emotional impact, and that is what I think truly ranks them so high, is that we really get to understand where all of Hiro's motivation comes from throughout this film, both the good and the bad. Yes, I love these two, and Tadashi's selflessness and sacrifice, and Hiro's heroism and bravery, there's very little that all of their wonderful traits can't accomplish, and I really like them as a sibling duo. The next friends are moving on up to number 4 on my list, who are Ian and Barley Lightfoot. Now, Ian and Barley, of course, come from the 2020 Pixar animated film, Onward. And as for their sibling dynamic within their animated film, Barley is the enthusiastic and impulsive older brother, and Ian is rather shy and insecure. Their journey to bring back their father for one day helps Ian and Barley realize that all they've ever needed all along was each other. As for their plot importance within their animated film, their entire quest is actually rooted in their own relationship, as well as their mutual growth. This culminates in a very heartfelt climax about both brotherhood and family legacy. And as for their representation within the Walt Disney Company outside of their original Pixar film, they are represented very briefly in some merchandise. And while I do have some fans in the Pixar realm, they unfortunately make very few appearances within the Disney parks. Again, seeing as their whole animated film revolves around their relationship, there is no way that they would have ranked any lower than this. They are such wonderful characters, and I love the relationship they have in their Pixar film. Oh, but next, friends, we're moving on up to number 3 on my list, and yes, this counts as a separate number. At number 3 are Kenai and Coda. Now, Kenai and Coda, of course, can be found in the animated Disney film Brother Bear, which was released in the year 2003. And as for this sibling dynamic, as opposed to the other sibling dynamic that Kenai appeared in down at number 20, they are initially not blood related, but through transformation and shared experiences, they form a deep brotherly bond. Kenai was in fact the causer of Coda's mother's passing, and so the two must go through an entire reconciliation, which is extremely meaningful and transformative for both characters. As for their plot importance, their developing brotherhood is central to the entire animated film, and Kenai's growth into a very protective older brother for Coda is the film's entire moral arc. And as for their representation within the Walt Disney Company, it is rather moderate. They don't make a ton of appearances, but they have made their way into the Disney parks as meet and greet characters, and they are very rarely featured in merchandise and parade appearances. Again, seeing as they are the entire emotional core of their animated film, I really do love how Kenai ends up stepping up and righting all of the wrongs of his past in order to create family bonds with young Coda. This entire story is just so heartwarming, and if you haven't seen this movie in a while, I definitely recommend a rewatch, and I think you might agree with my placement of these two Bear brothers on today's list. Ooh, but next, friends, we're gonna move on up to number 2 on my list. Talk about iconic. At number 2 are Anna and Elsa. Now, Anna and Elsa, of course, can be found in the Frozen films, originally from Frozen 1, which released in the year 2013, and then later in 2019's Frozen 2. As for their sibling dynamic in their animated films, their relationship evolves from estrangement to deep love and understanding. Anna is very warm and extroverted, while Elsa is reserved and fearful of hurting Anna and her entire kingdom. As for their plot importance within their animated film, their bond once again drives the central force of both films, including both Anna's quest to reconnect with Elsa and Elsa's journey to understanding her powers. And as for their representation within the Walt Disney Company, it is undeniable that these two sisters are everywhere. They are hugely popular as meet and greet characters. They appear in most Disney parades. They have an entire ride over in the Epcot Pavilion, and there are still 2 more officially confirmed Frozen films that are coming in the future. It is safe to say that these two sisters have cemented themselves in Disney history as true icons, and they're only going to continue to grow and evolve in the future films. Likewise, I think we'll be seeing a whole lot more park appearances for the two sisters when the films eventually come out, and I am so excited for round 3 and 4 of Frozen Fever. Ooh, but with that, friends, we have reached number 1 on my list of favorite Disney siblings. Have you possibly guessed who it could be? Yes, friends, at number 1 on my list are Lilo and Nani. Oh, these two sisters are, without a doubt, at number 1 placement on my list today. Let's talk all about them. Now, Lilo and Nani, of course, come from the original animated Disney film Lilo and Stitch, which debuted in the year 2002. As for their sibling dynamic, Nani is the older sister to Lilo. However, she also serves as Lilo's official guardian, especially because both of their parents have since passed. Their relationship is very loving, but also quite strained by both emotional tension and stress caused by their new living situation without their parents. Lilo feels misunderstood, while Nani struggles to both parent her and keep a job. As for their plot importance within their animated film, their bond is central to the film's themes of Ohana, meaning family. The film revolves around their attempt to stay together despite external obstacles, such as social workers and alien interference. And as for their representation within the Walt Disney Company, they are frequently featured in Disney merchandise. Lilo herself is a Disney Parks meet and greet character, and their story is iconic for portraying both realistic sisterhood and non-traditional family dynamics. I love the story that these two sisters share within their animated film. Every single time I revisit this film, it tugs at my heartstrings, and I can't help but root for Lilo and Nani to end up together in the end. I absolutely love these two, and there was no way that they were going to rank anywhere else but number 1 on my ranking of Disney siblings. Whew, but with that, friends, we have ranked 20 groups of Disney siblings. Thank you so much for joining me today. I had so much fun going through all of these iconic Disney siblings. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below so that way you never miss out on any future magic from me. And likewise, if you would like to find me on any of my other social media platforms, my handle is @Nicky Marra with 2 Y's and 2 R's. And you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat for even more magic. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. I know we've done different groupings of characters before, like duos and trios, but I really wanted to create my own ranking list specifically based around the sibling dynamic. It was a ton of fun to dive into each of these sibling dynamics and see how different of a range that Disney has put into their sibling characters. And I think no matter who you are or how many siblings you have, you can definitely gravitate to some of the dynamics found within these iconic animated films. As always, if you have any suggestions for future Disney ranking videos, make sure to leave them down in the comments down below, as I'm always searching through to see which Disney topics you all would like me to discuss here on the channel. But with that, friends, I will say thank you so much for watching, stay magical, and until next week, I'll see you all real soon.